Hello, in this video, I am going to create a floor plan editor with Giraffe. Um, so currently Giraffe, you can edit floor plans, but Giraffe is very 3D forward, let's say. So I can build a podium and I can break up the functionality, the program of the podium like this and chuck a tower on the top. But I'm working in this kind of series of 3D blocks that are stacked on top of each other. And if I go to the top, I get a true isometric view where I can measure distances, etc. But it's not a true floor plan editor. So it's not terrible for editing concept plans or master plans, but it's also not incredible. And sometimes laying out floor plans is very useful, especially when a project sort of starts becoming more and more detailed. Because once you've broken the building down into more than 5 features as opposed to just one big blob, every change, you need to change 5 things. Um, and not just from a mechanical perspective, you need to drag them 5 times, but you need to consider 5 changes. Like each one of these things relates to each other. So the more elements, the more complicated. So let's build a floor plan editor. Now the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to create a drawing layer called ref. And I'm going to create it. And in this drawing layer, I'm going to draw a polygon that represents my site boundary. Here's this project boundary. I'm just going to add a fill opacity. Set that to 0. And I'm going to do another polygon that represents my core because my core is probably common throughout my entire project. And I'm now going to create a point, add point, and snap that there. And I'm just going to make this a block reference point, a block base point, we call it. Now when I group this, I'm going to call this the ref, and I'm going to do some more points. And I can now open the flow builder and put an instant group. So I'm going to, add properties to this point so that it references this point. And this is what blocks are. One part of the model, this little point, references another part of the model, this group. And it references it by name, and its name is ref. And so if I go to the output, the group ID is ref. And what ho, we have ourselves some floor plans. Now I can make as many of these as I want. These are references. These are for me to draw on top of. So what we're doing is we're taking the original site and we're putting it flat on the ground over here on the ref layer. Now I'm going to lock that ref layer so I don't select it. And what we're going to do now is create a plan layer. So I'm going to create a plan layer, or let's call it a floor plan so we absolutely don't confuse ourselves. And on the floor plan layer, we can start floor planning. And I would be doing that with actual uses. So I would say this is going to be retail. This will be ground, typical podium, and then say 2 typical tower levels. As you can see here, I'm thinking in 2 dimensions. I'm actually drawing in 3 dimensions because Giraffe usages are inherently 3-dimensional. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to just turn off the transparency of floor plans so that the shadows don't work. That'll make it look flatter. And I'm using the references. I'm using these black outlines as references so that everything stays in the right spot. Now, I am going to override the floor to floor heights. So let's say floor to floor, I'm going to set that to 4. Okay, so that my core and my retail are the same size. Okay, that was a cool little bug. All right, what I also want to do is change the core color because this brown cannot be tolerated. Ooh, that's kind of good. Okay, and I can go a bit crazy here because I'm just thinking in 2D, so I can really get into the weeds and sculpt and shape and do whatever I need to do. And what I'm going to do here as well is I'm going to create a point again, and I'm going to snap it. And this common reference point is, you can see why I'm always snapping to that thing. And again, I'm going to add a property here called block base point. And I'm going to grab that block base point. I'm just going to copy it and copy it, and base point move it. Now, we don't have like drag and snap working in the same motion, but when we do, my goodness, it'll be good. All right, I'm going to use the polygon tool to draw some plaza. This is a very 80s kind of a vibe. So maybe it's coming back in. Plaza. Wink. Okay, cool. So there's our ground floor. Let's make it 2 levels. And now let's go again. So now we can say, I'm just going to draw this core again. Core, 3 levels, that's fine. And let's do commercial. And we'll do a similar thing that we did just before, where we are going to pull this back. So you can see I'm holding S and I'm just snapping things, and we'll set these to commercial. Okay, 3. And again, I'm going to override that floor to floor. Should definitely have done it in the uses, but I'm too committed right now. So, all right, so here's our ground floor. Here's our typical podium. And now let's do a typical tower level. So I'm just going to drag that guy. There we go. And let's do Resi, I guess. And then we'll do some hotel. And here I may say to myself, the benefit of the floor plan is that we can actually plan out this Resi, right? So I can do something like this, actually draw a big 3 meter wide corridor. Then I can grab this wrap component and I can use our split tool to split it into bits. I'll turn it on to 3 bedrooms. That's very ugly. Fix that up, but split that like this, and split that like this. And then maybe let's say that and that are 2 bedrooms. Okay, now I just want to get everything the same number of levels, so we'll say it's 10. And because I'm floor planning now, I can put in like custom balconies and I can get kind of intricate. And again, what's nice about this abstraction, the floor plan abstraction, is that you can think just in 2D. You don't have to sort of confuse yourself with more than that. All right, and then I'm going to copy paste this. So I'm going to delete that so we don't have 2 of those, and I'll base point move, and this ref point is always the ref point. And let's make these into hotels. So we'll do this, and we'll do this, and this. And if I was using the grid, I could get this 2 grids and make this way cooler, but I ain't. And maybe this becomes sculpted. Maybe we sort of start saying, hey, we're talking about a beautiful building. What did I do there? Further, pull that guy in a bit, delete that guy. Let's pull this guy out like this. Cool. Okay, and I think we have a hotel use. Hotel. There we go. And let's just color these guys, override the color. So I'm kind of just showing you here all these ways that you can override properties in Giraffe. But there's the hotel part of our building, and let's say there's 7 levels of that. Okay, so we've got the bits of the building now, like broken up. And I'll override the floor to floor here so everything matches again. We call these actually building sections in Giraffe, like same floor plan. That's a building section. There's 4 building sections. But here we're thinking about them in plan as laid out. So they actually are 3D, but we're thinking about them like this goes on top of this, but we're not positioning that in 3D space. We're sort of flattening everything onto the infinite plane. And unfortunately, our infinite plane is covered with map, so we could draw something and make it wide so that sort of got rid of the infinite plane under our buildings. There we go. So now in our views, we get a true floor plan. But we don't necessarily, maybe I'll just check that on ref. Okay, so we've got a floor plan zone. This is like outside of the world. This is paper space inside the model space. Okay, and now all we need to do is stack this stuff back up. So now I'm going to create a stack layer, which I actually already have. So I'm going to activate it. And once more, I'm going to draw a point. And now what I'm going to do is my ref layer references the site onto the plane. My plan layer adds information to the plane. And now my stack layer references the plane back onto the side and stacks it up. So what I need to do is I need to group each one of these. And so this is going to be ground. This is going to be typical podium. And notice as I do this, I'm gathering that point. So if I double click into the group, this point is a block-based point. And so that's the insert point. Otherwise it would be object-centered or you know what I mean? So this is going to be typical res, and this is going to be tip hotel. All right, and so now we have this point over here, and we're going to reference a group, and we are going to reference ground. Well, now what did I go? Done. Okay, and so now you can see this point grabs this group. So I'm going to copy and paste it, and rather than ground, we're going to get typical podium. So if I just copy that word, and I go over here and say typical podium, bang. Okay, so now the typical podium is above ground. And so if I change the ground, see down there, the podium changes, right? So the ground changes and the podium stays the same. And if I can change the podium, and the tower changes. So I've built a little machine that lets me think in plan and see in 3D. And so once more, copy, paste. And here we are going to, what I call this, typical res. I'm sort of at random changing my, there we go. And now let's get the typical hotel, which is tip hotel. And stack order still works, as in the stack order of the insert point tells which order this stacks. So this is going to be tip hotel. Boom. Okay, and so now I've got like I've got the little building, and I've got the controls of this building over here. So I can take a view of the floor plans, and then I can see them all stacked up, and actually get this nice little 3D diagram for free. There is another way of doing this where we could have the level information on the block insert point rather than the block. So currently the block itself, so typical res, knows that it's however many levels it is, and if we change that, the building is going to change. And same with typical hotel. This is the way I like to work because I don't mind this, and I still get the benefit of the plan because I know there's nothing under here. Part of the problem with this is you're like, oh, what's the ground level plan, right? Whereas here it's like, there's ground. You can see what's going up through the building. So you get the benefits of the 2D plan because nothing's on top of it, but you also get the direct manipulable control, as in all the information about typical podium is over here on typical podium. But some people like working differently, which is why Giraffe is a machine to build machines. So if you want to configure this thing differently, just do it. Absolutely. Do not hesitate. So yeah, okay, so let me just play around a bit, which I actually am. And so you can see here, I'm able to kind of manipulate the plan, thinking about the plan, the layout of this apartment, where there should be a balcony, etc. And as I'm doing it, the tower's changing. Now, one problem is with groups in Giraffe is it's difficult to add elements to a group. So the way you do that is you add the group ID. So you see this is typical res. And if I double click on this and go to the raw, you'll see that its group ID is typical res. So you can either copy that or just paste it in directly. And you can see here, this balcony, which is over here, is not added because it's not in the group because it doesn't have the right group ID. You can see it's got typical res 0. So if I do that and save, it suddenly appears over there because it's got the right group ID. So the mechanic, like the Giraffe mechanic, like what's going on under the hood is very transparent. You know, it's just, we're looking for things with the right group ID and then adding them in the group. All right, so that's 14 minutes and 42 seconds, and I think we've achieved quite a lot. So look, if there's any questions, please reach out to me. This is new, but very, very powerful.